Welcome back to Ol's Farm. We're going to cover a couple items on our trees here. We're going to show you how to prune a couple of these, train them to be a single leader or multi-stem tree. We're going to show you how to prune away some excess growth nodes here so you get just enough for the pot. A couple updates too on our in-ground trees we'll cover. So hopefully you enjoy this episode to see how Zone 4B, 5A trees are coming along. So we're middle of May right now and just starting our season. All right, we've got a couple examples here that are one of our better trees. We have multi-stemmed and a single stem. This one here is Celeste. And this one here is Desert King. This one I pruned, cut it off this high on its second year, allowed these to grow, and all of these are brevas growing. And this one at one point I counted almost 100 or more on one tree, and now some of them have fallen off from the windstorms. The downside to a single stem tree is they do tend to grow tall and want to tip over with the wind. We've got here the Celeste and brown turkey look almost identical, and we have both of them growing this way. And with the multi-stem, you get many growth points. It's got a lower top. The wind doesn't bother it as bad. But you have to really take care of the center, prune out the lower stems, so that way you don't get an abundance of growth tips. And then the roots can't support the amount of growth tips you get. So at each growth point, we have 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 growth nodes, and we'll have to come around and thin them out eventually. Some trees like this single stem will air layer these off, and the squirrels tend to take our brevas off, so that's where we're losing some with the wind also, and the squirrels. Last year it took almost every breva off this Desert King. So these are two really good examples of how to prune your trees. We started here with 2, and then 2 and 3 at this level, 2 at this level, and just let it branch out, and each year we'll cut it back, get rid of most of the new growth, and allow 2 or 3 growth points at each branch, and then we'll use those for cuttings. All right, so on the growth points here, my goal is usually about 1 growth point per gallon of soil. So on this one right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 growth points. So what I'm going to do is take this little guy, and we're just going to break him off. We're going to take this one, break that one off. And then I like to keep the center one. And since on this side here, we have 2 side by side, I'm going to take the lower one off, and that'll leave us with 4. And hopefully it'll branch out far enough. This one here, we have another 5 or 6 growth points, so we're going to take a couple of those off. This one here is growing into the other branch, so I'm going to go ahead and just break that one off too. That'll leave us with, we'll take this one and this little tiny one down here, so that'll leave us 3 for this branch, which will go this way and 1 straight up, and that way they don't grow into each other. So on the San Pedro, like a Desert King, we don't get main crops. So what I did last year is right here, there was a growth point, a single stem coming up, and I cut that off and used it for an air layer. And then these 3 took its place, and these ones are producing our breva crop this year. So as soon as this breva crop starts to ripen, what I'm going to do with this particular tree is cut it back to an outward facing node. That way, when this one is cut, it will send a new growth, and this might be sometime in July. And then that will give the tree from the middle of July to frost to grow a bunch of new branches, and we'll do this all the way around as these all ripen. This one will be air layered off into 2 or 3 trees most likely, and We've got one down below, two down below, that'll be air layered off also. And then it should send up a whole bunch of these new growths. And these top growths, I'm allowing them to grow for now, and I'll use those for some summer cuttings. And hopefully these turn out well for us, and then by the end of summer we'll have a whole bunch of more nodes lower that are first year, and we can get a bunch more Breva next year. The San Pedros are a little bit harder to prune, especially in our cold zone, because they want to set all their main crop, and the growing time frame is a lot shorter. So to get enough mature wood that it is a Breva crop rather than a holdover main crop will be a little bit tougher. All right, so we have this whole row of trees, and eventually we are going to either mulch around the pots or we're going to get them out into the grass field here. One of the things for growing trees to keep them healthy is keeping the roots cool. While we're doing that though, we're going to bring each tree to the inspection zone basically, and we're going to check them. This one here, you can see, has about 1 million growth points on it. So we're going to thin that one out also. It's a fresh tree from last year, a single cutting, and it turned into this, but this year we need to get rid of a bunch of these growth points so that way it can hopefully fruit successfully and not put all of its energy into growing new sticks. So what we're going to do on this one is, if I can keep the camera on, so we're going to just take a couple of these off here. And this may not be the best way. It's probably better if you trim them off with pruners, but I'm not too worried about it. And then we're going to leave these ones right here. Go down, maybe do two more. Just try to get a few of them, and then next year we'll probably pot this up into a different pot that's a little bigger, and we will reposition this stem so it's a straight tree rather than growing off crooked like that. Or the other option is choose one of our many stems down here and grow a new main stem. So for this particular tree, the amount of stems we got going down here is a ton. So we're gonna thin these down a little bit. We will air layer this little branch off down here. This one is, I believe, a little ruby. Then over here we've got a ton of growth, and I don't want a bunch of branches this low, so I'm taking them off. So we're basically preparing for next year, and I don't need 100 air layers off this tree, so I'm gonna kind of select the best nodes. I think I'm gonna take this one here, let that one go straight up, give it a new stalk, then I'll use this length here for some cuttings. Yeah, so we take this tree from probably about 50 or 60 growth points or more. We've got it down to maybe 20. And we will air layer off all of these little branches here. That way we can share them. And hopefully this tree fruits nicely for us. This is an exciting tree we got going on here. This is an enderud. It is a capra fig. And we have about 10 figs on here that hopefully will contain pollen. We're going to try hand pollinating our own trees. And if it does create pollen, I'll be putting up some of these air layers and doing the same thing with this one as we did with our Desert King, because the capra figs grow the same way as the San Pedro. So this will be an exciting time. We've got 8 or 9 capra figs that are supposed to be able to create pollen without pollination by the fig wasp. So this will be an exciting summer for sure. Try them all out. We've got 2 of them. We've got Wild number 1, and we have Enderud, Salib. They all have some figs on them. We've got another one here of Enderud. And hopefully, if we get some pollen, we can throw one of these in ground. That way we can provide some cuttings for people. Here's a first year of how I start my multi-stem tree and a single stem tree. So you can see we've got many growth points here. I'll start selecting a couple. This one looks like it's got about just the right number for a single stem tree. And we'll just let these ones grow. I'll thin the stems on the multi-stem tree and leave these ones on the single stem, and then we'll just let them grow through the summer. And about dormancy, we'll go through these and start pruning them to the way we want them to look. This tree here, we're doing a little experiment. It's a Fig Hunter 72 Firehouse. So we didn't get any fruit off it last year because they all fell off, so I'm not 100% sure if it's common yet, but we decided to put some red cabbages in here. Try it out. We got 3 of them in here, and these should be done by midsummer when the tree really needs its nutrients. So they have gotten quite large, and we'll be feeding this one a little bit extra just to make up for it. If we can get, and these mineral tubs are 25, 27 gallon size, we'll try to do a couple double cropping. We'll do got some hot peppers in one, cabbage in this one. This one over here, we also did a little cabbage in it. Got the Colonel Lippmann's Black Cross. It's a pretty large tree, but last year we didn't get any figs off it. This year, the wind shredded a couple leaves here in the last windstorm, but still looking pretty good. Kind of exciting too, this Natalina we got here. The other day it looked like, won't be able to find it for the video, but I did see a couple buds that looked like they were about ready to turn into a fig. See if I can get zoomed in for you. So that little node there is swelled up twice as big as it was. Can't guarantee that'll be a fig, but it's getting there. Some of these big tubs, I really like them for growing fig trees in. They grow really nicely. All right, this LSU Red was a super fast grower, and this tree went from just, I think this is just its 3rd season I've had it, and last year it took off, and it was almost 10 foot tall, and I cut it back at the end of the year pretty hard because I wanted to put, for each one of these, I wanted to do 2 stems. So I've got 2 growing at each one, but this one is a little bit slower coming back from the hard pruning. It's a little bit later of a fig, but this one is well worth growing. So this is the only downside to hard pruning. And this year, once I get each of these 2 stems growing, then we'll leave more wood on it, and hopefully next year it comes back sooner. But this one should still ripen up some fruit. It's a 3rd year tree, so it's doing pretty well. This is the 4th year Celeste that I was talking about. Looked identical to our brown turkey that we got from Menards. The only difference between this Celeste, and I know the Celeste is right, the brown turkey from Menards, is it is a darker fig. So I think our brown turkey, being a little bit darker, is actually a southern brown turkey with the size. But either way, they both have some good fruit on them, and I would recommend Celeste because it's definitely early. Both of these, Celeste and the Menards Brown Turkey, they have been ripening mid-August for us in our zone. And I think part of that is with the way I'm pruning them. These things are waking up, and if you can see, just a couple weeks of growth, and we already have several inches, several nodes on each branch, and each one of them nodes will give us a fig. And last year, this 10-gallon tree, this Celeste, had at least 75 figs on it, so pretty happy with that. The information for holdover or a Breva it's a little bit murky, but Celeste isn't really known for its Breva crop. But this one right here, it is actually growing on some somewhat greenwood, but I know this growth was from last year because of the way it looks on the coloring. And it is got a fig on it, and so to me, this would be what they call a holdover fig. And usually those ones are been falling off for me. This is the only one that I've seen hold on to Celeste in 3 years of growing it. In our container garden here, we've got some onions. These are going to get fed way more and watered more than our in-ground onions, just to see what the difference is. Because I'm able to water our trees and then water this, fertilize the trees, fertilize this, and we'll see what the difference is on that extra water and fertilizer, how much bigger of an onion we can get. And to continue our container garden, we have some Hanson's bush cherries. They don't normally get very big, so we're going to try those in 5-gallon containers for a while. We have some currants, a couple different black ones, pink champagne and a red lake. And we've got a Josta berry. And I've got my Campaneri over here. Hopefully that one turns out pretty good for us. We've got just some potatoes in these 5-gallon containers, and they're doing quite nicely. I'm curious to see how much difference there is on our in-ground versus the container potatoes. And then we've got some radishes. And to be honest, these radishes dry out quite fast, but they are creating some nice looking radishes on the earliest ones. We have this one, I think, is called Lutea carrot. It's supposed to be a long one. And then I lost the tag on the other one, so we'll just guess on it. So these things are looking pretty good, and I'm kind of excited to see how our veggies do in containers compared to our in-ground. As you can see here, the deer have been munching on our currants, which they're supposed to be somewhat resistant to deer. Deer won't like them, but our deer are enjoying the tops of these quite a bit. But we still do have some fruit. So we'll get it tested out. There's quite a few pink champagnes in here. And the long-awaited in-ground trees that you get out here and weed eat. But sometimes these weeds keep the deer away a little bit. They don't notice them, and I've had deer eat these tops. These things are, so far, we've had about half of them come back. We've got several rows here. Some of the single nodes didn't survive, and I did try to grow a ton of single node trees last year. And one mistake I've learned, all of the single node trees here did not survive because the node that was killed off was the only growth point it had. And so far I haven't seen any growth from just the roots. So we've got growth here. Got a couple different growth points coming. We got one there, and there. I think this one I found about 4 or 5 of them. So far, Cadota, LSU Purple, Strawberry Vert, Olympian. They're the quickest ones. Golden Celeste from UCD. or wolf skill. That one has been pretty quick. Marseille black, that one has come back. It's hard to see, but they got killed right down to the dirt, but some of the nodes are still alive and coming back on top. And we're gonna try, I believe it's called the Japanese espalier. We're gonna grow some of these branches out like this across the soil. Maybe go about a foot in each direction on 4 different branches. So the second mistake was not giving them some mulch early enough. And because of our short season, these trees did not go dormant like they were supposed to before the frost. So everything that is non-dormant and touched with the frost is dead. So we've got dead growth all the way to the soil. And that is due to us not getting the mulch in time, and we hit 24 degrees in the middle of October before the leaves fell. Another one we got here, this Nero 600. I'm kind of excited to see how this is supposed to be a lot cold hardier, but I mean, it is coming back, but it died down to the ground just like every other tree. One thing that I have learned is all fig trees handle this cold weather almost identical. I haven't found any that will survive the coldest frost we have here in Iowa any different than the rest. They all die to the ground and they all come back from the roots. This is one really exciting thing I've got here. One of those little growth nodes is put on a breba. And so I'm hoping to see, this is a Texas everbearing. It's possible that this is a brown turkey, but it is definitely a delicious fig. And if it can keep a breba going over the winter with just mulching it, I might try to lay down all of the new growth, pin it to the ground, and then we'll attempt to grow that next year and try to get breba crops off these trees. It's a lot of extra work, but it's definitely worth it for me. This Chicago Hardy is one that I want to show for the growing your branches across the soil. So this thing is probably 8 inches from the base, and we have some growth still here. So that saved 3 nodes above the soil. So that branch might actually fruit this year. It's a Chicago Hardy, and I haven't got a fruit off this in-ground one yet, but this has been here for a few years. Every year it just grows crazy, but it dies back every winter. So I left this one real low-hanging branch. Next year, in the fall, we're going to lay down as many branches as we can, cover them all up, and I think this one should fruit pretty fast at that point. So we've got 12 varieties of honeyberries. 2 of them I grew from seed. These are one of my favorite berries to eat. They come in super early. They're very prolific. These bushes here, I want to say, are only 4 years old, and I probably can get a gallon of berries off the oldest ones. The birds don't bother them when you grow them thick like this because they can't see the berries. So when they start to ripen, I come out here and start picking them. I like them a little bit underripe. We're getting close. They're starting to ripen, and these just flowered mid-April. So these are a very good choice for anyone in a cold climate. And they do grow very well. They don't like weed pressure, so growing these together nice and thick like this helps keep the weeds from getting in there. But they do still grow and they fruit great. It's hard to separate them until you look down at the base. But when you get in here, there's a lot less weed pressure than there is on the outside edge. So my favorite blackberry so far is this Darrow's. It does not have any dieback. It is the only variety I have had with no dieback. I've tried maybe a dozen different blackberries. Here in our zone, these things don't handle the cold very well, but this one, it just survives the winter with nothing wrong with it. None of the top growth has died back except for the very tips, and it just gets loaded with flowers. The only downside to this one is the thorns. You can see the new growth here. It's got many thorns. The older growth, those things get really sharp and they go through leather gloves. So this is definitely one to be careful with, but because it will fruit for me and not die back, I keep this one in the garden. I really like blackberries, and this is my option. So I'm going to grow as many of these as I can. Along with the figs, we really like the healthy fruits. So we've got aronia berries, and we've got a bunch of bush cherries with some more Hansen's cherry. And we've got the University of Saskatchewan's. We've got almost every variety they have released so far. And a lot of these are doing really well, but you can definitely tell some don't flower as well as others. This one here hasn't put on a lot of flowers, while this one is loaded. That's just one difference I've seen. We've got a couple of them, they just get real tall, but they have hardly any flowers. We've got our Nanking bush cherries, and these things get loaded up. We've got 3 varieties of white, and we've got some seedlings coming in down here. I think I'm going to pot them up and try some new varieties. We've got a couple little raspberries growing in here. Should see our first fruit crop off of this one. I can't remember what variety this is. The tag got taken. One thing I've noticed is these moles in our area really like to eat tags. Here's another one. This thing is so loaded with flowers that I don't know if it will drop them all. And this one is Cutie Pie. This is our deer protection here, and unfortunately this is necessary in the great state of Iowa, but we're using that panel there as a trellis so we can grow these grapes this first year for grapefruit. Now that they haven't fruited for us yet, so it'll be our first year growing grapes and getting to eat them. We have tons of flower clusters on this thing, so that's another exciting thing for our orchard update. One of these things I'm really excited about in our farm is we're growing a bunch of micro tomatoes, and I'm going to cross-pollinate some of my favorite micros into a regular tomato and try to get the flavors in different colors. So far we've crossed Honey Delight with Orange Dream, and we've also crossed the purple tomato with Orange Dream, and I have some ripe fruit from indoor pollination. So I'm fermenting the seeds currently, and these ones here will go out in some gallon pots. Once them are done, we'll save seeds and hopefully be able to share some seeds with people. And the other thing we got is our melons, squashes, some flowers. So we've got quite a few seed trays going here. Hopefully we get all of our summer vegetables and flowers going quite nicely this way. Well guys, thanks for joining us on this farm tour. Hopefully by the end of summer we can get you one of every variety, a taste test video. We'll get you some fall mulching videos so we can protect the ones we plant in ground, and then we'll show you how to prune them in the fall to get you some better harvest the next year. So thank you for joining us, and have a good day, guys.